So the 2024 presidential race is taking shape. Yes, you heard me correctly. I am talking about 2024. First Lady Jill Biden just gave one of the clearest signs yet that President Biden will run for re-election, telling the Associated Press there is, quote, pretty much nothing left to do but figure out the time and place for the announcement. And for the president, there actually may be no better time than the present. A new NPR PBS poll has Biden with his highest approval rating in almost a year, 49% among registered voters. And then you have Donald Trump, who is not faring as well. According to that same poll, a majority of Republicans and right-leaning independents prefer someone other than Trump at the top of the GOP ticket. It is one of several recent indicators that Trump's grip on the Republican Party might actually be slipping. A new report from the Washington Post finds that even some of the ex-president's most faithful supporters are now suffering from the dreaded Trump fatigue. The Post interviewed more than 150 Trump supporters across 5 pivotal electoral states, and they found that although he maintains a bond with his base, many voters have expressed interest in finding a new standard bearer. One voter told the Post, quote, I and a lot of other Republicans who were supportive of President Trump are becoming less and less supportive. Not because I'm a never Trumper. I just don't believe Trump is the best person to move this party forward. Ouch. And just this morning, Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel threw a new problem at Trump, a loyalty pledge. McDaniel said that all candidates wishing to take part in the Republican Party's first presidential primary debate must promise to support the eventual 2024 nominee. And that must be news to Trump, who said earlier this month that his potential support, quote, would depend on the nominee. It almost seems like that pledge is designed to knock Trump and only Trump. Look, we know the 2024 election is ages from now, but what's happening at this point could set the stage for the rest of the primary cycle. And here's what we're seeing tonight. Democrats are coalescing around President Biden at the time he needs it most. Republicans are fleeing from Trump at the worst possible time for the ex-president. Earlier, I spoke with Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California about the 2024 presidential race, her own 2024 race for the U.S. Senate, and more. Congresswoman Lee, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's start with President Biden here for a moment. After racking up a series of political wins, the president is seeing some of his highest approval ratings in almost a year. We're expecting him to officially announce his reelection any day now. Is Joe Biden the right candidate for Democrats in 2024? And does the answer depend on who Republicans nominate?
Nice to be with you. Let me just respond by saying I think he is absolutely the right candidate for president next year. When you look at, first of all, the context and the environment in which he took over in terms of people dying and getting very sick from the COVID-19 pandemic, making sure that he put forth measures to save lives and livelihoods. I mean, that was a big deal. We're still not over it, but we're moving toward an environment where people feel safe now. He put forth the infrastructure plan, the Inflation Reduction Act, the CARES plan. We did so much with regard to chips, bringing jobs back into America, good paying union jobs. He worked very hard to develop provisions to address the climate crisis. He has done an amazing job. Ensure that racial equity, gender, LGBTQ plus equity is included in every single policy that he puts forward.
Let me move on to another 2024 race, one that'll be watched very closely, expected to be one of the most expensive ever, and that is your bid to be California's next senator. Talk to us about why you decided to throw your hat into the ring, and more importantly, how do you plan to stand apart from your Democratic colleagues who have also declared their candidacies, like Representative Adam Schiff and Katie Porter?
I intend to put forth to the voters my accomplishments, first of all, and what I have done to deliver for California voters for many, many years. As a progressive African-American woman, I connect with the voters and many of their daily challenges and their experiences. I'm going to move forward in my campaign, which is what I'm doing now, talking to people who've never been seen, for example, people who are living on the edges. I want to focus on some issues that really aren't lifted up in campaigns by helping make life better for people, such as poverty elimination. We have over 140 million people living in poverty in the United States, over 20 million in California. Food insecurity, inequality in general, looking at the climate crisis, bringing forth new ways to address public safety. Every community wants to be safe. Housing, California has an extremely severe housing emergency, looking at issues that we can tackle at the federal level in the Senate to address housing in a comprehensive way.
If elected, you would become just the third black female senator in our country's history. Black women are often described as the backbone of the Democratic Party. We saw that even in 2024 in the turnaround that Joe Biden had in South Carolina. Why do you think they have struggled to gain the representation in the upper chamber that they deserve?
Well, representation does matter. And let me just remind you that the first House and Senate went into session in 1789. Since then, 2 African-American women have served in the Senate a total of 10 years. That's Senator Kamala Harris and former Senator Carol Moseley Braun. The lens of black women are extremely important. The lens of everyone in this country are very important in the Senate. Of course, we have all of the challenges and barriers that black women and women of color continue to face, and still we move forward and breaking these barriers. Financing, funding campaigns. We have to get to public financing of campaigns because black women have many challenges and many barriers to raising money. But we still move forward, and look at what Mayor Bass did in her phenomenal race, $9 million. She won to $100 million, which her opponents spent. And yes, black women have dealt with many challenges and barriers that this country has embedded in its DNA. But you know what? Every time we break those barriers, we break it not only for ourselves, but we do that for everyone. We bring everyone to the table, a seat at the table. And so it's important that the strength and the lens and the experiences of black women be included in the Senate debates and included in Senate legislation and policies. It's outrageous that we don't have that perspective in the Senate.
Speaking of rights and policies, let's switch gears to a looming decision that we're expecting out of Texas. A Trump-appointed judge could ban abortion pills nationwide. You have been an outspoken critic about about the overturning of Roe versus Wade, and speaking about your pre-Roe abortion undergoing what you described as a back alley abortion in Mexico. Are you fearful that women once again will have to resort to dangerous procedures if these safe and effective methods are continuously stripped away from women in this country?
Yes, millions of people use medication abortion. It's safe. And in fact, I'm worried that the clinics now are going to be overwhelmed once again because patients from other states that have banned abortions, also need treatment. In addition to that, to abortions need miscarriage treatment. And so we're waiting to see what this decision will render. We're waiting to see what exactly it will say. But believe you me, this is a terrible precedent to set because it really hampers the FDA from moving forward on developing other drugs, other FDA approved drugs, if in fact the court rules against medication abortion. Millions of people rely on this, and it's wrong to take this another way to help people control and make decisions of their own bodies. This is another rollback on our basic rights, and it's up to people to decide what they want to do with their own medical decisions. And medication abortion is an option that people should have, and it should be their decision, not the court nor politicians.
Before we go, I want to ask you about a bill you proposed this week. I would argue a pretty bold bill. It's the People Over Pentagon Act, which would cut the Pentagon's budget by $100 billion per year. You've suggested refocusing that money on other priorities like infrastructure, healthcare, and education. What is your message to those who think a cutting, budget or cutting the budget of defense spending makes us less safe, especially as the world becomes more dangerous with Russia and China on the rise?
But you know what? It doesn't. Cutting $100 billion. When you look at the defense budget, over $850 billion, compared to the budget which I chaired on the Committee on Appropriations for last 2 years, $64 billion for development and diplomacy. Come on, we've got to have a balanced national security strategy. $100 billion. When you look at the waste, fraud, and abuse inherent in the Pentagon budget that hasn't even passed an audit yet. When you look at defense contractors misusing tax dollars, scamming the system, you can't tell me that $100 billion will tamper. And we've had military experts show us and make sure that we understood that's not going to touch any effort that would harm our troops. It's not going to make a dent in our ability to ensure our national security. But what it will do is begin to address waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer dollars so we can have the resources here in our own country for education, for housing, for health care, for the climate, for all of the issues that the American people so deserve. $100 billion out of $858 billion versus $64 billion for diplomacy, for preventing wars. Come on, this is a modest measure. And I've been working on this not recently. I mean, this has been for 25 years on trying to cut this defense budget. And we're building support around the country for this, but it's not an issue around national security. It's an issue about misuse of taxpayer dollars.
Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. Congresswoman, thank you so much for your time. Always appreciate talking to you, and thanks for coming back on the show.